We spend pretty much our entire lives communicating, right? But how often do we actually stop and think about what's really happening when we talk? Well, today we're gonna unpack that. We're gonna find out why just saying something is often not nearly enough and discover a much more powerful way to think about what it actually means to connect with someone.
Let's start with a feeling I'm pretty sure we've all had. You're explaining something, you're absolutely convinced you're making perfect sense, but you just get these blank stares back. It's like your words are just, poof, vanishing into thin air. That feeling, that universal frustration, that's exactly what we're digging into today.
So for a long time, the common sense way to think about communication was this super straightforward definition from way back in 1948. The idea is simple. I have a thought, I send it over to you, you get it. Boom, done. And this classic model shows exactly that. It's basically a one-way street. You've got a source over on the left who sends a message, it travels through some kind of medium, and then it hits a receiver on the right. Clean, simple, and, well, as we're about to see, kinda incomplete.
I mean, come on, if it were really that easy, we'd never feel misunderstood, right? So why do our messages get so tangled up all the time? The reality, as we all know deep down, is just way messier.
Let's think about a couple of real-world examples. A doctor might perfectly transmit a diagnosis using a ton of precise medical jargon, but if the patient has no idea what those words mean, has communication actually happened? Or what about a professor giving a lecture that's technically brilliant, but just flies right over the students' heads? In both of these cases, a message was definitely sent, but was it ever truly received? And that brings us to the absolute core idea here. See, real communication isn't just about launching a message out into the world and hoping for the best. Nope, it's something much more collaborative than that. This is the real goal. It's not about just pushing information from one person to another. It's about creating shared meaning. It's this active, ongoing process of building a bridge of understanding between two minds, so that the idea in my head actually matches the idea that ends up in your head. It's something we have to do together. A much better way to picture it looks like this. It's not a one-way street, it's a continuous loop. In this model, both people are constantly switching roles. You're not just a sender or a receiver. You're interpreting what the other person is saying, while at the very same time, you're cooking up your own message in response. It's this constant interactive dance. Just look at them side by side. The difference is pretty stark, isn't it? On the left, you have a simple delivery, like a package being dropped off. But on the right, you have a dynamic, living process. It's really the difference between reading a memo and having a real conversation. And that shift in thinking, from just transmitting to creating shared meaning, that's everything.
Okay, so now that we have this really powerful idea of shared meaning, let's see how it plays out at every single level of our lives. From the quiet conversations we have inside our own heads, all the way up to messages that reach across the entire globe.
So believe it or not, it all starts right inside our own minds. This is what we call intrapersonal communication. It's that constant inner voice, the dialogue where you weigh decisions, talk yourself through problems, and basically figure out what you think. This is ground zero for creating meaning, long before you ever say a single word out loud.
The next level up is interpersonal communication. This is what we usually think of when we hear the word communication, right? Talking with a friend, having a debate in a small group, a class discussion. Here, that whole process of creating shared meaning is direct, it's immediate, and you get feedback instantly. And then you have the biggest level of all, mass communication. Now this is where things get really complex. We're talking about a massive organization like a TV network or a movie studio sending out one single message to millions of different people, all at the same time. So how in the world does our big idea of shared meaning even work at this massive scale? Let's zoom in and take a closer look at what makes mass communication such a unique beast. This model really shows you how complex it gets. The source isn't a person anymore, it's a whole organization. It's sending out tons of identical messages, which then get received by this huge, scattered audience. And here's the key part. Each individual person then decodes that message and reinterprets it within their own little world, their friends, their family, their community.
So this all boils down to a few key differences. First, the audience is enormous and totally anonymous. The source has no idea who you are personally. And maybe most importantly, that nice, neat feedback loop we saw earlier, it's basically broken. Instead of a direct reply, The creators have to guess. They have to infer how you're reacting based on stuff like ratings, sales figures, or comments online.
Which brings us to our final big thought for today. If communication is really about the process of creating shared meaning, and so much of the information we get comes from mass communication, it really makes you wonder, doesn't it? In this huge, complex system, who is really shaping the meaning that you share with the world? Definitely something to think about.